for 15 years had lived alone on the remote colony of Ardent 7. The planet's red desert stretched endlessly, and the twin moons hung in the sky like distant lanterns. Every morning he woke to silence, and every night he fell asleep to it. Life had become a rhythm of survival. Check the water recyclers, maintain the energy cores, and scan the skis for any sign of travelers. But beneath the routine carried a hollow ache, a memory that refused to fade. Her name was. She had been unlike any being he had ever known. Not human, not entirely alien, but a mixture of both that made her captivating and mysterious. Her skin shimmered faintly under sunlight, her eyes glowed like liquid stars, and her voice had the warmth of wind over a quiet desert. He remembered the day she had vanished. Warships had come from the far reaches of space, tearing through her planet like fire through paper. Had watched helplessly as she disappeared into the chaos, leaving only a whisper of her laughter and the memory of her touch. For years he had believed she was gone forever. He had buried himself in work, forcing routine to numb the ache. But no amount of labor could erase the quiet evenings when he would sit by the observation deck and look at the stars, imagining her among them, alive and searching for a way back. Every night, he checked the communication uplinks, hopping for a signal, a trace, anything. Most nights, there was nothing but static. Then on a quiet evening, something impossible happened. The sky above Ardent 7 shimmered, a ripple of silver spreading across the horizon. Froze, the sensors lit up, an unidentified ship was descending. Unlike any human design, it moved fluidly like it was part liquid, part light. Heart pounded, could it be? No, it had to be impossible. She was gone. The ship landed softly, almost reverently, leaving the colony bathed in an otherworldly glow. The hatch opened and a figure stepped out. His breath caught. She had returned. She looked taller, more radiant, as if time itself had shaped her into something even more extraordinary. Her eyes met his, wide and shining, reflecting the stars above and the desert below. "I'm here," she said softly, her voice trembling with emotion. "I've come back. I want everything I missed." Sneeze felt weak. 15 years of solitude had taught him caution, mistrust, and fear of loss, but nothing could prepare him for this moment. She had survived, she had returned, and she wanted everything. For a long moment, neither spoke. The wind carried dust around them, swirling in silver light, wanted to run to her, to hold her close and never let go, but fear rooted him to the spot. What had she endured in those years? What had she become? Could he even recognize the person who returned from the void? Finally, she took a step forward and felt something break inside him, a mixture of relief, awe, and longing. Her hand extended toward him, delicate yet firm, as if demanding both trust and connection. He reached for her, and the moment their fingers brushed, it was as though the 15 years of distance melted away. "I've waited for this," she whispered. "I've waited to live again, to feel again, and I want to do it all with you." His chest tightened. He had imagined this moment countless times, but reality surpassed imagination. The desert around them, the red sands, the twin moons, the silent colony, all faded into insignificance. There was only her, luminous and alive, and the overwhelming sense that life, against all odds, had returned to him. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting the sky in shades of violet and gold, knew one thing for certain: the quiet of 15 years was over. Something new, unpredictable, and magnificent had arrived. Had come back to claim the years she had lost, and in doing so, she had reshaped his world forever. He didn't know what tomorrow would bring, but he knew he would face it with her. Whatever she wanted, whatever she needed, he would be there. And as they stood together under the alien sky, a single thought burned bright in his heart. He was not alone anymore. The colony was quiet when stepped fully into it, her presence bending the light around her. Settlers paused in their work, staring with wide eyes. They had heard stories of alien survivors, but none had ever walked among them so openly, so unafraid. Felt the weight of their stares, but ignored it. He could only focus on her. She moved with a grace that was not human, yet strangely familiar, her gaze drinking in every detail of the small colony she had never known. His curiosity was immediate and relentless. She ran her fingers over control panels, tilted her head at blinking sensors, and crouched to examine the tiny, humming power cores. "Everything is so delicate," she murmured, a smile tugging at her lips. "How do you keep this alive?" followed her, gently correcting her when she reached for a delicate fiber optic cable or tried to pry open a sealed system. "It's stable but fragile," he warned. "One wrong move could destroy half the colony's power." She laughed softly, not mockingly, but like a musical bell. "Then let's not break it. But I want to see, I want to touch it all. I've been alone so long, I need to feel the world again." Her words struck him with an ache he could not hide. 15 years she had wandered the void, surviving, adapting, enduring. And now she demanded life in its fullness, not careful steps, not hesitation, everything she had missed. Tried to show her the routines, the schedules, the careful balance that kept the colony alive, yet had no patience for repetition. She wandered off paths he had deemed safe, wandered into gardens suspended in, and crouched to smell the artificial flowers that had never seen rain. She laughed, and it was pure, bright, unrestrained, so unlike the measured smiles of the colonists who had spent their lives under strict rules. Some settlers whispered behind their hands. They admired her intelligence but feared her unpredictability, noticed it but chose to stay by her side, guiding, protecting, and sometimes just watching. In the quiet moments, he could see the vulnerability beneath her strength. Her eyes, though brilliant, held shadows of 15 years of isolation, shadows that only he had glimpsed before. One evening, as the twin moons rose, stood beside on the observation deck, hands brushing against the rail. "Tell me about humans," she asked. "Tell me about your fears, your joys. I want to understand it all." Exhaled slowly. "We survive, we fight, we love, we lose. We carry hope even when it feels impossible. That's how we last." She nodded, eyes wide, absorbing each word. "I've learned to survive too, but I've never known joy. I've never felt the small things, the warmth of a hand, the quiet of a shared look. I want it all now. I can't waste another moment." Her determination was both awe-inspiring and terrifying. She had returned from the edges of space with a fire that could burn or illuminate, realized he had to choose, to restrain her for safety or to let her embrace life fully, no matter the risk. His heart argued for caution, his soul argued for trust. That night watched asleep in the small quarters he had prepared. The soft hum of the colony surrounded them, but his mind replayed the day's chaos, the laughter, the moments of wonder. She had returned to claim what she lost, and he had no choice but to stand beside her, even if it meant confronting his fears. In the quiet of the red desert night, whispered to the stars, "Teach me to live as boldly as she does. Show me how to survive not just in body, but in heart." And somewhere deep inside, he knew the real challenge was just beginning. Had returned for life, for experience, for everything she had missed. And he would be there not just to guide her, but to rediscover the world alongside her. The colony slept under twin moons, unaware that the quiet days were ending. A new chapter had begun, one of curiosity, conflict, and connection. 15 years of absence could not dim her fire, and felt for the first time in a decade and a half that the universe was alive again. The days passed with a strange, exhilarating rhythm, moved through the colony with boundless energy, her curiosity never-ending. She touched, explored, questioned, and often ignored the rules tried to instill. He had thought he knew her, but every moment revealed new layers, an alien spark of daring and unpredictability that both amazed and terrified him. One afternoon was working in the energy control chamber when a sharp alarm blared. He rushed to the main deck and found crouched over the communications tower, her hands moving over wires like she was playing a musical instrument. Bright pulses of light flashed along the tower's surface, casting dancing shadows across her face. "Stop!" shouted panic slicing through his chest. "That's not a toy. You could fry the entire network or worse, cause a reactor overload." She glanced up at him, eyes wide and shining, a smile playing at the corners of her lips. "I'm not breaking it," she said softly, voice almost playful. "I just wanted to see if it could sing. The lights, the vibrations, it felt alive. I wanted to feel it." Anger surged, mixed with fear. "Alive, it's a piece of machinery. It doesn't feel, you don't understand the risk." Her fingers paused over the controls, and for a heartbeat the world seemed still. Then she looked at him, her gaze steady, fierce, and almost pleading. 15 years alone, I have never felt alive like this. Every moment was survival, every breath a task. I want to feel it all now, even if it scares me." His chest tightened. Her words pierced through the layers of caution he had built around himself. He saw not recklessness, but hunger, raw, unrelenting, the need to reclaim every second she had lost. And in that moment, he realized that trying to protect her by holding her back might be the thing he could do. Yet fear lingered. He imagined a spark igniting the tower, a chain reaction destroying months of work. The colony plunged into darkness. And still, he couldn't bring himself to stop her entirely. He simply stayed close, guiding her hands, whispering cautions, letting her experiment just enough to satisfy her curiosity. By nightfall, the alarms had ceased and leaned against him, hair glowing faintly in the artificial light. "See, nothing broke," she said with a triumphant laugh, though exhaustion softened her features. "It's perfect," it sang for me. Let out a slow breath, the tension in his shoulders easing. "You're impossible," he muttered, but there was a hint of admiration in his voice. "And maybe that's why I can't let you go." For the first time in years, felt the stirrings of wonder alongside responsibility. Presence was chaotic, unpredictable, but also alive in a way he had forgotten life could be. She had survived alone, faced the void, and returned unbroken. Her fire burned brightly, challenging him to live beyond the narrow boundaries of routine. That night sat by the observation deck, watching her sleep. The colony was quiet, but he could feel her energy still pulsing through the walls. Her determination, her insistence on experiencing everything she had missed, it was intoxicating. He realized that fire didn't just illuminate her own life, it lit a path for him too, showing him that survival alone was not enough. To live fully, he would have to risk, to feel, to embrace the unknown alongside her. And deep down, he knew it would not be easy. Her energy would clash with the colony's structure, with his own cautious nature. There would be arguments, mistakes, perhaps even danger. But the thought of a life constrained by fear suddenly seemed unbearable. For 15 years, she had endured loneliness. Now she demanded life, and knew that if he truly loved her, he would not stand in her way. Instead, he would follow her into chaos, into discovery, into the fire of living fully, no matter the cost. As the twin moons rose over the red plains, whispered to himself, "I am ready. Whatever comes, we face it together." The next morning, the colony was buzzing with whispers. His presence had not gone unnoticed. Children stared at her with wide eyes, adults exchanged cautious glances, and a few colonists muttered warnings under their breath. She was beautiful, strange, powerful, and unpredictable. Could feel the tension in the air as he guided her through the small streets and, "Don't pay attention to them," he told her gently. "Some of them fear what they don't understand." Tilted her head, studying the humans around her. "Fear, yes, I see it, but why hide it? We all feel it sometimes. Fear, joy, love, even anger. I've spent 15 years with none of it. I want everything now. I won't hide anymore." Exhaled slowly, realizing that she was right. He had spent years urging her to adapt quietly, to stay safe, to not disrupt the colony's routines, but had survived alone for too long to shrink now. She demanded life fully, and he had no choice but to let her shine. The settlers were not yet convinced. One morning, a supply convoy failed to return from the asteroid belts. Rumors spread that its arrival had drawn unwanted attention, that her strange alien aura had somehow attracted danger. A few colonists blamed her for the missing ships. Confronted her privately, "They're scared, they think you brought trouble." She looked up at him, eyes shining. "Then maybe it's time they learned what life can be like when you refuse to shrink for fear. I won't apologize for existing, not anymore." Before could respond, the alert sirens wailed across the colony. A small alien scouting drone hovered in orbit, scanning the surface. The settlers panicked. His mind raced through defense protocols, but he saw something in its expression that gave him hope, focus, clarity, determination. "We can stop it," she said almost confidently. "Not by hiding or fighting blindly, but by using what we have. We can turn their strength against them." Hesitated. The colony had no weapons capable of taking down an alien drone, but its mind worked differently. She analyzed the energy shield system protecting the colony and pointed out a flaw that, if exploited carefully, could trap the drone without damaging the colony. It was risky. One miscalculation and the colony could be destroyed. Felt fear, but it mingled with admiration. 15 years of loneliness had sharpened her mind in ways no human could match. Together, they enacted the plan, directed energy pulses through the shields while coordinated the timing, guiding the colony's few technicians to follow her instructions. The drone reacted unpredictably, but anticipated each move, adjusting the frequencies with precision. Within minutes, the drone was trapped in a magnetic field, rendered harmless. The colony erupted in cheers. Colonists who had whispered warnings now stared in awe. Brilliance and courage had saved them, not only from danger but from their own fear. Felt a swell of pride and relief, but also a deep emotional ache. She had returned for life, and she had changed everything around her, including him. That night and stood atop the observation tower, looking at the twin moons casting silver light over the red plains. "You were right," admitted softly. "You didn't just survive, you thrived, and you taught them to see beyond fear." Smiled, leaning into him. "I wanted life, I wanted it all, and I am learning slowly how beautiful it can be when shared." Held her close, feeling the warmth of her presence. He realized that return was more than emotional, it was transformative. She had reminded him that life was not just about survival. It was about courage, connection, and the willingness to embrace the unknown. For 15 years, she had wandered alone in the cold void of space. Now she had returned, not just to reclaim lost time, but to reshape the lives of everyone around her. And knew that whatever the future held, danger, joy, or heartbreak, they would face it together, stronger for the fire she had brought back into their world. The colony slept under the twin moons, unaware that their days of quiet predictability were over. A new era had begun, one of curiosity, courage, and undeniable wonder. The red plains of Ardent 7 stretched endlessly beneath the twin moons, but found pockets of quiet among the chaos of the colony. After the drone incident, the settlers looked at with respect rather than fear, giving her small freedoms to explore the world she had missed. Yet it was in the private moments, away from the curious eyes of others, that their connection deepened. They wandered through the floating gardens suspended in the where delicate plants shimmered under artificial light, crouched beside each flower, running her fingers over petals that glowed faintly. "How can something so fragile survive?" she whispered, awed. Smiled, stepping closer. "It adapts just like us." Her eyes lifted to meet his, a question unspoken in her gaze. She had survived alone for 15 years, but she had never known companionship like this. He reached out, brushing a strand of her hair from her face. The gesture was simple, human, yet it carried the weight of trust, familiarity, and something more delicate, a spark of unspoken affection. They sat on a bench overlooking the desert plains, the artificial moonlight casting silver shadows. Spoke of the colony's past, its hardships, the small victories that had kept humanity alive on this harsh world. Listened intently, occasionally asking questions, her curiosity unending. But as the conversation waned, a comfortable silence settled between them. "I missed this," she admitted softly, her voice almost a whisper. "Not the work, not the survival, just this. Being near someone, knowing they care. 15 years I didn't have anyone. I was alone in the dark." Felt a lump in his throat. He had imagined her returning 100 times, but he hadn't anticipated the raw honesty, the vulnerability in her words. He took her hand in his, holding it carefully. "You're not alone anymore," he said. "I've waited for you, and now I'm here." Her fingers intertwined with his, a simple human connection bridging the gap of 15 years. For a long moment they just sat, hands clasped, hearts beating in silent rhythm. Around them the colony hummed softly, unaware of the quiet intensity of the moment. Tilted her head, a faint smile playing on her lips. "I thought I wanted everything at once, adventures, discoveries, thrills, but maybe what I needed most was this, someone to share it with." His eyes softened. "Life is better shared," he said. "The small moments matter just as much as the big ones. You don't have to reclaim everything at once. We can do it together, step by step." She leaned her head on his shoulder, a gesture of trust he had not earned but was freely given. "I've learned to survive alone," she murmured. "But I don't want to anymore. I want to feel, to live, and to share it with you." Wrapped an arm around her, holding her close as the wind whispered through the... For the first time in years, he felt a sense of peace he had thought lost forever. 15 years of emptiness could not erase the warmth of this moment, the quiet bond forming between them. As the night deepened and remained side by side, speaking softly about dreams, fears, and memories, each story, each laugh, each touch was a thread weaving them closer. The universe outside was vast and uncertain, but here in this small pocket of light, they had found connection, trust, and something profoundly human, companionship that transcended time and distance. Lifted her head to meet his gaze. "I've waited for this my whole life," she said, voice trembling with emotion. "To belong, to feel alive, to have someone by my side." Kissed her forehead gently, heart full. "And you have it now. I'll never let you face the dark alone again." Under the twin moons, the desert stretched endlessly, but neither of them noticed. They had found something brighter than any star, a bond born of absence, survival, and the courage to embrace life together. 15 years of solitude had ended, and something infinitely richer had begun. The calm of the colony did not last long. Weeks of peace were shattered when a rogue fleet appeared in orbit, scanning Ardent 7 with cold, mechanical precision. The settlers panicked, scrambling to prepare defenses, whilst mind raced with calculations and contingency plans. Evacuation pods were checked, energy shields reinforced, and emergency protocols recited aloud. But deep in his heart, he feared that survival alone was no longer enough. However was calm, her eyes glimmered with determination, reflecting the light of the twin moons. "We can fight them," she said softly but firmly. "We don't have to hide, we can protect the colony together." Shook his head. "It's impossible. Their firepower, our weapons, none of it can match them. Evacuating is the safest choice." She stepped closer, her hand brushing his arm. "Safe is not living. I survived 15 years alone because I had no choice. Now I have a choice, and I choose to stand, to fight, to protect everything we've built." Her courage stirred something deep within him, a spark long buried beneath years of caution. He had learned to survive, to calculate risks, to avoid loss, but reminded him that survival without courage was meaningless. Together they could face danger and perhaps even triumph. The rogue fleet moved closer, their ships casting shadows across the colony's red plains, and devised a plan combining human ingenuity with alien intuition. Analyzed the enemy patterns, predicting movements and vulnerabilities that no human could anticipate. Adjusted energy shields and coordinated the settlers' limited defenses. Their minds worked in unison, a perfect balance of caution and instinct. As the first wave of drones approached, the tension was unbearable. His heart pounded, sweat slicking his brow, but his hand in his steadied him. "Trust me," she whispered. "We can do this." The battle was fierce. Energy beams cut through the sky, warning sirens screamed, and the colony's structures shook with each impact. But guidance allowed them to outmaneuver the fleet. Drones were trapped in magnetic fields, attack vectors anticipated, and the rogue ships forced into retreat. The settlers, initially terrified, watched in awe as human and alien minds combined to save their home. When the last drone fell harmlessly to the ground, the colony erupted in cheers. Exhausted but victorious, looked at, his chest tight with emotion. "You did it," he whispered. "You saved them all." She smiled, her alien features softening in the glow of the twin moons. "We did it," she corrected gently, "together." As the adrenaline faded, realized the deeper truth. This battle was more than survival. It was a test of their trust, their courage, and their bond. Had chosen to live fully, to risk everything, and in doing so, she had reminded him of the power of hope and partnership. 15 years of absence, 15 years of fear had led to this moment of triumph, not just for the colony, but for them. Later, atop the observation tower, watched her silhouette against the violet sky. "You've changed everything," he admitted, voice low. "I never imagined life could be this vivid." Leaned into him, her warmth a beacon in the cool night. "I wanted life, not just survival, not just years gone. I wanted to feel, to fight, to be alive, and to share it with you." Wrapped his arm around her, feeling the weight of the last 15 years of waiting, loss, and longing lift from his chest. "Then we face the future together," he said. "No matter what comes next, I will be with you." The colony rested under the twin moons, exhausted but safe. Outside, the stars stretched endlessly, indifferent yet beautiful. and stood together, realizing that courage, love, and trust had brought them through the darkness. The void of 15 years alone had ended, and a new life awaited, a life not merely survived, but lived fiercely, fully, and side by side. As they held each other, the red plains shimmering in moonlight, knew one thing with certainty. Whatever challenges awaited them, they would face them together, stronger, for the fire had reignited in both their hearts. The colony had survived, and for the first time in 15 years felt a quiet satisfaction. Not just survival, she had experienced triumph, connection, and something she had longed for more than anything: belonging. The red plains of Ardent 7 stretched beneath the twin moons, but for the first time they did not feel empty. She was no longer alone. Walked beside her through the quiet streets of the colony, hands brushing lightly. Settlers watched from a distance, some with admiration, others with curiosity, but no longer paid attention. She had reclaimed her life, and it shone brighter than any fear or rumor. "I wanted everything I missed," she whispered, her voice soft but certain. "I thought I could catch it all at once, adventures, discoveries, even simple moments. I didn't realize that living fully also meant being here now with you." Stopped and turned to her, eyes reflecting the silver glow of the moons. "You have it now," he said, voice low and steady. "All of it and more, not just the excitement, not just the victories, the quiet, the laughter, the connection, your home." She smiled, a mix of relief and joy that made his chest ache. 15 years of wandering, 15 years of enduring the void alone, had led her to this moment. Her fire, her courage, and her resilience had not only saved the colony, but had taught something he had almost forgotten. Life was meant to be lived with passion, not just preserved. They climbed to the observation tower, the highest point in the colony, overlooking the red desert and the glowing. The wind stirred her hair and reached out, tucking a loose strand behind her ear. It was a simple gesture, but in it lay a promise. He would not let her face the darkness alone again. Leaned into him, feeling the steady beat of his heart. "I missed so much," she said softly. "I missed friendship, trust, love. I thought survival was enough, but it is. Life is everything we share, every risk we take, every moment we hold close." Wrapped his arms around her, holding her tightly. "Then we will take it together, every moment, every challenge, every joy. I will not let you walk alone again." The twin moons cast silver light over the colony, and the desert shimmered like liquid. Stars stretched endlessly above, vast and indifferent, yet somehow intimate when shared with someone who mattered. Closed her eyes, breathing deeply, finally feeling complete. She had reclaimed her life, and it had never felt more vibrant, more alive. Around them, the colony slept, unaware of the quiet miracle that had unfolded. A human had shown an alien the warmth of connection, and the alien had shown humans the brilliance of courage and curiosity. Together, they had faced fear, embraced life, and reshaped the world around them. "I used to be afraid," whispered. "Afraid of loss, of darkness, of being alone forever. But you taught me that fear is nothing when someone stands beside you, and now I am not afraid anymore." Kissed her forehead, his lips lingering. "Then we live fully," he said simply. "No regrets, no hesitation, just life together." They stood there side by side, holding each other as the stars gleamed above. 15 years of solitude were gone, replaced by something infinitely richer: trust, partnership, and the boundless promise of shared life. Had wanted everything she missed, and in his presence she had found it, not just adventures and discoveries, but connection, warmth, and love. The wind whispered across the red plains, carrying the scent of new beginnings, and faced the horizon together, knowing that whatever awaited in the vast unknown of space, they would meet it as one. The void had once held her captive, but now the universe was theirs to embrace. And in that quiet, silver-lit moment smiled. For the first time in 15 years, she was whole. She had survived alone, but now she would live fully, fiercely, and unafraid with by her side. Everything lost had been reclaimed. Everything gained was theirs.